Hello, everybody. This is Keith Caldwell with Our Special Voice. Today, we are going to attempt yet again to try to have our apps for autism. Those of you that have been watching the show, you know we've had some technical challenges over the last couple of weeks, and today was no different. So I'd like to introduce you to our special guest, Lois Jean Brady. Say hello, Lois.
Good morning, Keith. Good morning. It's funny how you can be an expert on technology, yet the hardware really messes you up. But we got it now. We got it. Thank you. For those of you who are coming back to watch, thank you. You know, for the people who are watching it for the first time, welcome.
Thanks. Hey, Lois, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you've done, and tell us a little bit about your book.
Sure, I'd love to. My name is Lois, just like Keith said, and I am a speech-language pathologist and an assistive technology specialist, as well as a certified autism specialist. And I am a full-time speech therapist. So I work with kids all day, every day, of every age and ability. And when the iPad first came out, it's been a few years now, I thought it was probably one of the most fantastic tools ever. So I wrote the book, Apps for Autism. This is the second edition. It's all updated with all the latest, greatest apps. Just so I can tell everyone out there, oh my gosh, this is probably one of the best tools you could have in your toolbox. And it's not going to make your life harder. It's not about learning a whole new system. It's going to make your life easier. And not only that, your students will love it. They're going to start learning like you've never seen before. So Keith and I got together and we thought, let's put on these webinars, and better than just have a book that they can go by and read, let's kind of demonstrate and show people how these things actually work.
Excellent. Now, how is your book constructed? I know that there's various chapters. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those?
Correct. There's 38 chapters, and each one of them focus on a different area. Of course, I'm a speech and language expert, so we have a lot focusing on communication. And since that is one of the #1 struggles with kids and adults on the autism spectrum, that's a huge part of the book. But then there's also things like fine motor, tracing, sound letter identification. And Keith, what we're going to talk about today, which I found out after being able to work with my kids on the iPad, literacy is one of the biggest areas and one of the best things you can teach your students on the autism spectrum. So there's a big area in the book covering literacy. There's disfluency, which is stuttering. There's dysphagia, which is swallowing. There's toolboxes in there for like parents. There's toolbox for therapists and teachers. Like say if we want to make the letters bigger, we have a student who also has some maybe visual challenges, then we can make the letters bigger. If we want our kids to be able to go on the internet, but we want to monitor them, well, there's apps for that. So that's what I mean by toolboxes for parents and teachers. So whatever you need, basically there really is an app for that. And so I tried to cover it, and I tried to give everyone a great idea of how to use them, not just what apps are out there, but this is how we use them. Fantastic success stories that myself and my colleagues have come across. And there really are some great stories in here, as well as highlighting some individuals who are nonverbal, but because of the iPad and technology, they have written books. Oh my gosh, so they're still wearing headphones and they're still having lots of sensory challenges, but they're also writing books. They're typing it out on their iPads, or now they go from iPad to laptop or desktop computer. So really good successes.
Excellent. Now, the book's called Apps for Autism. Is it only for people with autism?
It is not. It can be for anybody, including everyone from neurotypical to profoundly involved. Like I say, every age and ability, you just go in and you pick out your level, where you are, what you want to learn, and go from there. So anyone can use it. Of course, as we all know, children with autism are probably some of the most challenging children to try to break through that attention. I lose the word for that attention, joint attention. It's very challenging to get joint attention with a child with autism, but using the iPad, that no longer is an issue. You really have their joint attention, and once you have their attention, you can teach them almost anything. And I found that teaching them literacy connects them to everyone else. They're learning, and for the most part, Keith, some of them already have literacy. We just don't know it.
So what do you mean by literacy in this example for apps and where we're at right now? I know what literacy means literally, but what does it mean for us?
Okay, for the child on the autism spectrum, what I've been through so many IEPs where they're just learning the alphabet, just A through Z. And they're learning it first in capitals and then in lowercase. Well, for the child on the autism spectrum, what does that mean? How do you even use that? They see these things in their environment. They see letters. They're highly visual. They see them put together in different ways. But sometimes they don't connect those letters with what's coming out of your mouth. So if you have a word like mama, that's a great first word. That's, it's bilabial. You use both your lips. You can see it on your face. But if they see it written M-A-M-A, they might not think that M-A-M-A is mama. So when we teach literacy to a student with autism, what we're trying to do is to connect what they see written to the word that we say, to the word that we can type and write, and to the word that they can now say, and then put a meaning to it. Because if you don't put any meaning to it, because there's really no meaning to the ABCs. Because I will never walk up to you, Keith, and say, ABC. It's not going to happen. I will walk up to you and say hi. And we teach our kids hi as H-I. Now those two letters have a meaning, they have a concept, and they can practice that probably 20 times a day. Hi, hi, hi.
My son says hi 300 times a day.
There you go.
So, and his oldest brother is very impatient. I know we try to keep these things to about 30 minutes, so let's go ahead and dig in.
Great. So I'm going to walk you through some of the ones that my students have had tremendous success on, and they're fun. A lot of these apps the kids use. Are we up on the screen share, Keith?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so many of these apps the students use after they get done with all their work, and they use them as their reinforcer. So we all know how important reinforcers can be, especially for students on the autism spectrum. So when your student does their work and then works as their reinforcer, I think we've won the game. So here's my first app, and this app was a surprise to me. My students absolutely love it, from 22-year-old nonverbal to a little pre-kindergarten child who was very disorganized and can't seem to focus in on much tabletop activities. So this is the one to use. First Words Professional. Now there is a First Words Deluxe, but the First Words Professional allows you as the mom, the teacher, the therapist to go in and pick the target words you want your students to learn. So let's just start with all words. And we're starting with some nice, just 3-letter consonant, vowel, consonant words. But if you listen, when I tap the T and the U,
G, G, tug.
Okay, so that's usually all it takes, and the children are very, very excited to do it on their own. And now these, again, are students who we don't think can match. We don't think know the letters of the alphabet, and all of a sudden, they're not only matching their spelling, and they're hearing phonetics. So they're getting sound letter identification, and they just keep on going.
D, B, E, D, bed.
I'm seeing how this works, Lois, in a practical way. Is that they see a picture of their bed,
Yes.
and they see the letters that spell bed. So now you're drawing a connection between the letters that they know and the actual representation of what it is. That's pretty good.
Exactly, and many of our students on the autism spectrum do not hear the last letter of a word or the last part of a word. They'll say the first part, like this word is cab, and they may say cap or cop, and leave off the B. Mm-hmm. But when you show them that there is a B, and this is what the B sounds like, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden they see the B there, they know what the B sounds like, and they start adding the B. So you're working on some auditory processing, comprehension, the whole bit, and you're putting it together with this nice little picture. And it's fun. They love it. They love it. I've had actual students learn to read by using this app because they love it so much. They'll use it in the backseat of the car, you know, at the restaurant while they're waiting for their food, at many different places. The good thing about this app, Keith, is that you can level up and level down. You can make it harder or more difficult. You can take away the prompts. You can add distractor letters. So as your student or your child progresses in their spelling abilities, you could make it a little more difficult and more difficult. Excellent app, and I believe they're under $5. It's better than a flashcard. They're great, and they never go away. You have them forever, and they're frequently updated. So try this one, highly recommended. I'm going to show you the second one that I use with. After they love this one, I want to introduce them to a different kind of a spelling app because I really want them to be very flexible. Not just use one app. I want them to go to like 5 different spelling apps. And this other one I'm going to show you is an excellent one also. It's called Montessori Crosswords. And as you can see, there's different levels. Now this is great for teachers and speech therapists, is the target. I just touched the target. Now look at all the letters and sounds you can target. Is that cool?
That is cool.
Yes, so you can target anything you want there. It really makes it easy for us, especially being speech therapists or even teachers, depending on what you're trying to teach in class. Okay, so we'll get out of there. And I'm just gonna go to level 1 today to show everyone just kind of basically how it works. Okay, so you have the word and then you have how it's spelled. I'm going to touch the picture. Nut. And it's going to say what it is, nut. Okay, so now I'm going to touch the first box and you're going to hear Now the student has to go and find where's the where's the N sound. So many of my students will kind of go through and listen to the various sounds until they hit the right one. Okay, and then you're going to hit the next sound. And let's say they get the wrong letter. It just simply drops back. There's no loud sounds. There's no obnoxious anything. It just drops back down until they find the right one. And here's another cool thing, Keith. If they're really struggling and really can't find the right one, they can tap the little question mark, and there's their answer.
Very good.
That's really good too, because now you're also working on working memory. Can they hold it in their brain long enough to go down now and find the T? So there's a lot of skills there you're working on.
Nut.
That's very, that's very, very nice. I like that app.
Right. And as you saw earlier, you can level up, level down, or pick your target words. You can also, if you see the keyboard down below, you can make that into a, what do I want to say, a ABC keyboard. There we go. You can switch the keyboard around many different ways. I always like to use just the regular keyboard because my ultimate goal is to get our kids typing.
Right.
So now they're done with spelling nut. They touch that red arrow that's been blinking at us, and they're going to get this really cool kind of a reinforcement. You can set the time limit here, and then they go on to the next one.
But you know what I like about it? As you know, my little guy, he does not like to be wrong, and he gets, sometimes that's a trigger for getting upset, and having some behavioral issues. So I like the fact that it doesn't like bonk, 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 you made a mistake. It just sort of doesn't let it place it there. So I think
it's almost errorless. It's pretty cool.
Right.
Pretty cool. Now, the one thing that, there's always pros and cons. The one thing that I quite don't like is you don't get to pick your targets. And if you can see this picture, it is a hut. It's a hut. That's not a very functional word.
No.
So it's great if you're teaching phonics, letter sound identification, and just trying to get your student or your child really tuned into some words. And it does have some very functional words, but they're mixed in with some rather unfunctional words. And that's okay because they love playing it. They love the little reinforcer. And again, it lets us really target some sounds. I've even used this for articulation kids and students with apraxia because again, they see every single letter and they get to practice how it sounds. So there is no dropping off the T at the end of hut because it's there in front of them and they can see it. So again, I think this one is under $5 also, very highly recommended, very student approved. So we're gonna move on to another type here. I'm gonna move it up a level into kind of reading. The books I'm gonna show you are called Bob books. Now, where are they? There's my Bob books. And this is actually a reading series, Keith, that you can go to. It used to be Barnes and Noble, but I don't know what it is anymore if we have any freestanding stores. But you can go onto Amazon.
Right.
Buy this little series, and it's for everybody. It's not just for students with disabilities, but it really helps them. I'm going to show you how. Let's go home, and we're going to get to our settings. Here, I want to show you the settings because sometimes that's really important. You can select a level. You can choose phonics or word sound. You can take the hints off. You can put the hints on. And that's very important because not every child is at the same level.
Right.
We're going to start her. We're going to start on page 1, though. Okay, so you got this little cute guy standing here. And we're going to watch him for a while. And sometimes the students quite don't know what to do at first. They're kind of looking at him. But you see him shake? He shakes. He's giving you a prompt. So the prompt is to touch him. Matt. And it says his name. And once again, it's just a drag and drop. And I love the drag and drops because the more you can involve your students, the better off. They love to get their hands out there and drag and drop things. So they become a part of their learning. So you touch the M. And then you match.
Matt.
Very nice.
Matt sat.
So now you're kind of bumping it up to more conceptual things. You have this little picture of Matt, and he sat. You actually get to see the guy sit.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool because sometimes when you're just reading a static book, you just see the guy either sitting or standing. But here, you see the words and you see him sit. Okay, now at this point in time, before my student gets...
You see the action that he's taken. So it's, I mean, because the one you mentioned earlier, if the person's already sitting down,
right?
It's Matt has sat or Matt is sitting, right? It's not...
Correct.
So I like that.
Correct. And sometimes with our students on the spectrum, especially, we don't know what they're attending to. Are they looking at the flower in his hand, the curtain on his head?
Right.
Different things that we look at. So we may automatically know he's sitting because we already know language. Well, these are children that we're trying to teach language. So if they're focusing on the little dandelion in his hand, and you're trying to teach the concept of sit or sat, we're missing the boat.
Right.
we're teaching them that the dandelion in their hand is the word sat, but now they get to see it. So I think it's part of why I really love this app. Now, before they can touch the blue arrow on the bottom to go to the next page, we try to read it. We do the best we can. Some kids can read it. Some kids can just get the M out. We just do the best we can. And this also shapes up as they get better and better. So we touch the arrow. And as you can see, it progressively gets a little bit harder and a little bit harder. If we don't know what to do, in a minute here, somebody's going to start shaking. Oh, there it is, cat. Cat. And then it's the same process. You drag and drop, and it spells the word cat. And then the little picture comes to life at the end. I like, again, another reason I really like these is because there really are Bob books out there. So after they learn how to read these little mobile technology app books, you just hand them a Bob book and they can actually read a book now. You can't imagine the pride that the children have when you hand them a book and they know what the book is for. Now they know that they read the book. The book isn't something that you throw or you rip apart or you put in the garbage can. It is something to read. So now they can go home and read to their parents or to their grandmother or another classmate. Fantastic. You've taught them to read a book. So That's why I really love to get up into the Bob books as soon as possible. And I might be running all 3 of these apps at the same day. Because again, flexibility is huge. We don't want to teach just on one app because people will ask me, what's the one app you use for literacy? There is no one app.
Right.
Keep them flexible. And for the most part, like the Bob books, if you can pick an app that has a book, a hard copy book companion, that's really good. I'm going to show you one more. This is kind of a new one. It's one of my favorites. They're all my favorites, actually.
You have like Lois, you have like 20 pages of apps on your iPad, I noticed. Oh my goodness.
I do. And believe it or not, Keith, you know, I know that when you go to IEPs, the psychologist always chimes in with this child is profoundly cognitively delayed. Well, they're not, because each and every one of my child, no matter where they are in their educational process, knows where every single app is on my iPad. And they can get to it. And when I turn my head for a split second, Keith, they're out of it and onto YouTube. Well, come on. And they're into their favorite YouTube video. So they're already doing things, spelling and processes and routines that are really advanced, and yet on their IEP it says profoundly cognitively delayed. Makes you want to take a fresh look at these kids.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go into sign stories, because these are meant for kids who are hard of hearing or deaf, but because sometimes we use sign to supplement some speech, just like me and you and probably everyone else, as we're talking, we're gesturing, and it's kind of triggering the word we want to say. It's the same with the kids on the spectrum or any other child. So if we can teach them a sign or two, and if they can't think of the word to say, they can sign it, and that triggers the word, or I can sign it from across the room. So the idea of teaching sign language is not that our kids are going to be signers, it's just another way to communicate and build language. And this is a great way to do it. This is kind of new. The 2 you see on my bookshelf are both free. They both come with the app. The initial app is free. And we're going to pick Billy Goat's Gruff.
Once upon a time, there were 3 billy goats.
You see
each
that?
called Gruff. They lived in a valley in the winter to keep warm. When spring came,
we're going to stop this
climbed
guy.
up to the meadow on the hillside to eat the lush green gruff.
There we go. Well, that's not a good place to stop.
Yeah, he looks a little crazy.
We'll try again. Oh, well, that's... Anyway, these are actually called theatrical signers. So, and I think that kind of highlights the point of what a theatrical signer is.
Absolutely.
Really gets into it. So now our students are hearing the story, they're seeing the words, and they're seeing the person sign it. So it's kind of an all-inclusive storytelling app. They like it. They like it a lot. This is one of the ones that they may use as a reinforcer. So they're learning all these multi-modality nodes of communication all at once. So again, this is one of my favorite literacy apps. And then I might get the book of the 3 Billy Goats Gruff, and we can go through and read it, the hard copy book. And you'd be surprised that your kids can already learn to read. It's not out of their reach. It's not out of their reach. And you're going to be surprised at the number of students who already know how to read. I've run across so many students, Keith, who already know how to read. You just show them a few words and you show them a keyboard, and they want to learn. They don't want to sit in the corner and not be social. They really want to learn. I don't have to reinforce my students anymore. They're self-reinforced by the fact that they're really learning and they're communicating, because that's what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And the iPad has shown us that. I mean, it's just now coming to the market, so to speak, and getting accepted into schools. And we're just now finding out what our kids know and a better way to help them learn to communicate. I don't know that we have much more time. Those are some of the favorite apps. There's a bunch more out there. once you start looking for literacy apps, you're going to find so many really cool, fun ones. Just get them. They're all, for the most part, you can get a free trial. If your student or your child likes it, go ahead and buy the app. They're all under $5. A couple are more expensive. Usually the more expensive ones take some kind of data for you in the background. But they're great. So I'm going to get out of screen share here and
right, so we can see you again.
See me again. Let's see if we can get out of screen share, Keith. Oh,
we're going to see him.
You're going to see him. He's a funny guy.
There you go. There you go. So we covered the 4 today, so that was really helpful. And I'll make sure I put that in the show notes for people so you can go find those apps yourself. We do these webinars the fourth Friday of every single month. This month was a little different because we had some issues in the previous webinars, but the fourth Friday of every month at 11 a.m. and we do these webinars. We cover various topics. Now, Lois, I know that you're going to invite some other experts onto the show in the future. Can you give us some ideas of some of the things we're going to be covering?
Oh, I would love to. Gosh, we have so many topics. Like I said, I'd love to bring on an occupational therapist who can talk a little bit about how the iPad could help with fine motor and typing skills. I'd love to bring on someone who is an expert in music. There's some iPad apps that are music-based. So you know those students or children you have that go around humming and singing songs and are really connected into music? We have apps that can use that strong connection and actually build language and speech. We have experts on swallowing and disfluency. We have a man who's in my area who runs a school of technology. Is getting fabulous results, and he's actually created a couple apps himself. So there's many experts we can bring on, and everyone has something unique and quite amazing to share. This has really helped me out as a speech language pathologist who initially was having such a struggle just to get children to sit next to me. That's not a problem anymore. That problem is all gone away.
You show them an iPad and they are drawn to you.
They're drawn, and then you just have to guide them. And once you guide them through a few apps, the ones that you use with them, they actually start using them on their own. It's no longer an arm wrestling just to get them to do a chore. And then combine it with everything else. Combine it with keyboarding. You know, never give up on writing. Never give up on speech. It's all together. You're not just doing one thing. We're not just going to talk. If you can't talk, you can sign it. If you can't sign it, you can type it or write it. Because they could be out on the playground, not have access to their device. What are they going to do? Right. So they have multiple means to communicate. And at that point in time, you're going to see a reduction in behaviors and just a happier, calmer child.
You know, I was going to say that's one of the reasons that we had made that as a description of the show, is that it helps reduce behaviors, because my son gets frustrated if he's not able to communicate. And using these various apps, he has all these different ways to communicate. He can type, which he's learning how to do much better. He's starting to get more verbal, so he's talking more, 2 or 3 word utterances. Right. But he's starting to put it all together. So this is great. Now, he's not signing because that's not something we wanted to do at the time. But all these different ways for him to communicate is really the goal, is helping them learn how to make their way in this world. So
right. And if they can text like any other teenager child, that is so fabulous. I have one boy now who's texting his brother who's in the Army, and he's saying hi, and then he's saying his name, and then every day he adds on like maybe another word, hi, his name, and then how he's feeling. Or he may take a picture now and send the picture. Oh my gosh, that is so fabulous. That would not have been possible without mobile devices. So it's not just a matter of handing your child a mobile device, because they'll go to YouTube. They'll go straight to YouTube. all day if you let them. You do have to guide a little bit, and once you show them how to use other apps and do other things, then that becomes a priority also. Right. It's just, YouTube is so drawing.
I know, I was on it earlier, so we have to wrap up the show for today, because we try to stick to about 30 minutes, which is where we're at right now. Lois, is there anything that I forgot to ask you that I should have asked you? Is something you want to cover in our closing comments?
Well, I would. I showed you some apps today, and a lot of them were beginning apps for kids who are just learning the sound letter identification and maybe just trying to put the words together. But in my book, I've outlined apps that actually take you through sentences and then let you start building your own sentences, some paragraphs, create your own books. So there's a lot of apps that move from the very beginning and kind of step you up into sentences and paragraphs and writing stories. A lot of them also let you use picture support. So I couldn't go over them all. I'm sorry. Maybe another we'll add on to this would be like literacy step 2.
Well, we could have done it. We could have just had a 25-hour marathon webinar. That's too much, Keith. That's too much, Keith. Anyhow, everyone, thank you for joining us today, and make sure that you check us out at ourspecialvoice.org. ourspecialvoice.org to register for any webinars. We have webinars on speech and language with Lois. We have webinars on special needs planning. We have webinars on IEP development. We have webinars on anything that would be of interest to the special needs community. So we're trying to help educate people that are like us. So with that, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you soon.